I just want to take up some of your time to talk about shadow work. I promise you definitely will not regret it. It's so eye-opening, and yeah, I just want to share all of it with you. So let's make a cup of coffee and get to it. So shadow work is kind of like everywhere at the minute. It isn't necessarily called shadow work, but since I've started doing it, I've literally seen it everywhere. I've seen it in a lot on TikTok. So was it Olivia Rodrigo's? Yeah, the I hope you know what I am, you were created. And it's the TikTok trend of closing your eyes and pretending you're saying that to your younger self. That is a form of shadow work, and it's, everyone always calls it like the inner child, and you're talking to yourself and kind of giving yourself that what you needed when you were younger. And that's what I see on social media a lot. It's like, be what you needed when you were younger. Sorry, let's have a hot water break. And this is, I'm just giving you the basics right away, just so you know what it is, before watching like a whole like 20 half-hour minute video and not even being told. So basically it's a lot of mind work and kind of helping you move on from things. A lot of people describe shadow work as the thing that's constantly holding you back. There's a lot of people that I've been watching in regards to shadow work, and I'm gonna leave their YouTube channels down below because it's really helped me. You can go many different ways in this. You can go like the psychological, scientific route, or you can stay on this video and go the spiritual route of shadow work, and that's what we call it, shadow work. Whereas I guess in terms of like a scientific, psychological thing, it's kind of re-experiencing trauma and addressing trauma. So it can be very hard for a lot of people, because you do have to kind of delve back into yourself to basically get over things. In the honest, short way of doing it, it's basically just getting over things which you've never really dealt with and dealing with it. I guess even the word trauma, like you just think, sorry, see you later, I ain't doing that. And actually when you delve down into it and you actually think about what kind of trauma you've experienced, because everyone's experienced trauma, all in different ways. It's something that's very, very relative. But honestly, from my experience, it's not been as hard as people have said, but I guess, yes, so when we hear the word trauma, we immediately want to walk away. But actually when we dive into it and we actually think about it, like it's only our life trauma. It's not as scary as what it seemed. You know, I've already experienced it once, we can experience it again, but we've got new experience now, we've got wisdom on our side, and I think it's a very positive experience. And yeah, that's basically what this video is going to be about, how to do it, and like more details to what it actually is and what it can achieve. But it basically unlocks your true potential. Also, I can't wear fake tan for like another month, and I'm going to keep looking like this, and I'm sorry for that, but yeah, the camera doesn't like my lack of pigment in my skin, so let's go somewhere in the shade. Oh, I need to add some milk. Okay. Oh, that smells lovely. So there's lots of different things in you, and this is where the kind of like the heavy spiritual root comes in, is that there's the mind, which we need to take care of, there's the body, which we need to take care of. Those two we do. More so the body, we know how to like eat well, go to the gym, things like that. We know that information is very widely available. The mind is becoming a bigger, information about the mind, healing, healthy is becoming more of a thing. The spirit and the shadow does not really kind of get pushed out there. The spirit, I guess, if you are spiritual or religious or pray or do tarot, anything like that, your spirit is kind of taken care of a little bit. And the spirit is said to have its own energy field, and that's why it has such a big influence on you without you realizing, because it has its own energy. So no matter how much good you do, your spirit can still pull you back if you don't work on that. So it's a lot about healing, again, trying to find your higher self. That's a big thing in spiritualism. Awakenings, enlightenments, all of those kind of words spring to mind when you want to work on the spirit. The spirit does have a lot of positives as well, and I guess if you want to make it super sciencey, which you've probably already clicked off if that's all you're interested in, but for the sake of those viewers who might be hanging on, it would be a lot of like trauma based, and a lot of like nurture, like what has happened to you in the past. Doesn't necessarily have to be your child, and we talk about inner child, it could be just in the past. And why is it that you react in certain ways? Like, we know that like your brain has pathways in it, and a big thing in like different therapies, so like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, is they try and rewrite those pathways, and that's, we can do it. So like the brain is very clever, it can rewrite its own thing and create new habits. Like we know we can change habits. We know it takes 21 days to create a new habit. Like, this information is readily available, that we can literally change the pathways of our brain to do something new. But there are pathways in our brain that if we don't work on them, they will always be that way. It's like you're just instinctive ways of doing things, and some of them are really bad for us, and we know that, and we don't know how to kind of go about them. I guess shadow work and addressing your kind of why is it you react to certain things, like diving into that to kind of like get rid of that pathway and make a new one, you know. So that's all we're going to be talking about. Trauma is something that lowers our vibration, and that's kind of what holds us back. Now I'm going to get into actually how to do shadow work / how I did shadow work. I'll start off by giving the examples which the people who are much more educated on it than me gave. The first one, what's his name? Let's get his name. Clark Keeley. I'll put his YouTube down below because I've probably not said that right. But he gave a very logical explanation of shadow work, so that might be a very nice one to start off with. That was the first video I watched on shadow work. But he gives the example of there's a certain feeling that holds you back, and I feel like we know at least one of these within ourselves. We know something that holds us back, if you're a shy person, or maybe something that triggers you and makes you anxious. And he says, sit down with that feeling. Imagine you're sitting in front of that feeling. So say like you are sitting there right now. Say I am this feeling sitting in front of you, and interview it. Ask it why it's doing these things to you, and try and get to the bottom of why it's there, why it's part of you. And he says that if you're not kind of like that visual kind of out loud person, you can write this down, write letters to this feeling. Why are you here? Like, is it because of this perhaps? Is it because of this? And as you're writing these ideas, suggestions, you will have certain feelings, and you'll be like, no, I don't really feel connected to that. And then you might write something and you're like, oh, I think that's why it's here, you know? So he gave that, it was an idea of how to do shadow work. That ain't a bit of me, like not what I'm about, but that was his advice. For me, I started doing shadow work unknowingly. What started it off for me really was I was in a relationship, and I was in a relationship with someone who worshipped the ground I walked on. And the relationship ended, and I was constantly thinking like, I feel good, like I feel good now, but why could I not accept that love where I like this intense love that someone was giving me all these amazing things, and I just didn't feel connected to that, you know what I mean? Like, on paper everything seemed to work, but it didn't in reality. So I was doing a lot of self-questioning. I was like, why am I reacting like this? Am I going to be like this with everyone? Will I ever find love? Will I ever settle down with anyone? Or is this just me set for life now? So I did a lot of that, and I'm trying to manifest a lot. I got really into like my spiritualism again. I tried to manifest the life I wanted. I connected to my spirit guides. I honestly never knew how to do this, and I just kind of fell into it, which I guess, you know, divine timing and all that. But the way I connected to my spirit guides, just because I think my spirit guides completely helped me through all my shadow work, and I think that's a reason for why it was so easy for me to do the shadow work. Actually, yeah, that's so weird. I was about to get this necklace out just because it was more comfortable, and then I was like, this is why. This set this whole thing in motion. This is a bit of Moldavite. I've got a video coming out on Moldavite very, very soon. Crystals though, crystals can help you a lot. Moldavite, oh my goodness, you want to do some shadow work and don't know how to get started, get some Moldavite. Moldavite helps you get started in anything basically. But I was doing a lot of tarot readings, and I was doing TikTok, basically got me into it. I'm a big believer in the kind of tarot TikTok and spirit guides TikTok, because when changes happen in my life, TikTok reflects that. And it's like, it's not things I search on Google for, it's not things I actively look for. Like when my relationship ended, that I came home and I went on TikTok and all of my tarot readings had gone from you need to make a decision, you need to make a change, to well done for making this change, new things are coming. That shook me to my core because I was like, how on earth? Okay, now my ears are ringing, and that's a big thing in like spiritualism. If your ears are ringing, you need to be aware of what's around you. Like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, see, this fucking spiritual world is fucking crazy. Oh. Basically, I only started connecting with my spirit guides like a month or so ago, and now I'm like so connected to them. Like, I feel them push me out of things and into things, and that's amazing. I literally sound like a crazy person. I bet I'm editing this, I'm gonna bet Jasmine, you sound crazy. Yeah, okay, let's just move on, because you're probably just gonna click off this video and be like, what the fuck is this girl on about? But trust me, it gets better. It makes more sense soon. Okay, now I'm gonna start acting like a normal person. So, and I know a lot of people journal and that's how they get things out, and then journaling kind of makes things make sense for them. I can't journal because I write, I can't, it doesn't work for me. So I found other ways of doing that. Honestly, YouTube was a saviour for me. If I get agitated or I feel very intense emotion, I'm like, I'm gonna make a video and I'm gonna make everyone feel like rubbish because I need to get what I want to say out. I don't make these videos, but I plan them in my head. Obviously, I'm not like a drama channel, I'm not gossipy, like, maybe I am a little bit. But I'm not gossipy, like, I don't make those kind of videos, you know? So, like, I wouldn't ever make a video like that anyways. Well, never say never. But hopefully I wouldn't make a drama-y video. And especially, like, with a lot of our traumas, it involves other people. So it's hard to actually talk about it. And most of the time it's the people that we're close with and we love. And it's like, how do I tell you that you fucked me up without making you feel bad because someone else fucked you up, and so on, you know? So what I started doing, and I've been doing this for years, and I see people do it on TikTok, so I know it's not just me, is I imagine I'm being interviewed. Now, I used to love being on Graham Norton in my bedroom. Recently, I've been on Piers Morgan's live stories. Not a massive fan of him, but it's live stories, and just even the thought of sitting there, someone asking me questions. So I guess it's kind of like, if I upset someone, someone's asked me it, so it's not me kind of making a video and dramatising everything, but also I've got it out in the open, I've said it, and also it's like I'm being interviewed almost like I'm a celebrity, so actually people give a shit, and it's not just me moaning about my problems, people are actually listening to me, and that I found so therapeutic, to where I will sit in front of a mirror and I'll have a Piers Morgan live interview. And I sit there and I cry, and I heal a lot from certain things from it. A massive thing I just want to put out there is that even just acknowledging the past trauma makes it go away and makes it diluted a million times. And it's almost just kind of like, okay, I know some of you might disagree with this. Say like I'm in bed and I see a spider, I'm like, shh, there's a spider. Okay, that is the reaction we have to trauma normally. And I sit there, but instead if I sit there and go, oh, that's a spider, that's an insect. It has a brain, it has legs, it's a person, it has a soul. Not person, it's an insect. But if I kind of like actually see, oh yeah, it's a spider, and I get less scared of it, and it doesn't make me scared anymore. And I don't have to think about what will the spider do. I don't have to like think about, actually like there's a bloody spider up there, there isn't. But I don't have to dive into the detail of what could go wrong with the spider, what could go right with the spider, and address, I don't have to confront the spider like, oh, get out of my bedroom. Like, I just acknowledge the spider, you know, and just actually see it for what it is. It's a spider, instead of just having the feeling and not actually being like, oh, it's a spider, just like, ah, oh wait, no, it's a spider, it's okay. That's kind of what it's like. You're like, trauma, ah, and then you're like, well, actually, my dad just left, or actually like there was a bit of aggression there, or actually there was a bit of violence, or actually that really scared me. And it's like, yeah, they're horrible emotions to deal with, but if you acknowledge them, you're kind of just like, oh, that's why I act like that. Like, okay, and now I'm gonna like dive into like my own things. So basically, I was diving in to kind of, why do I do this? What's wrong with me? Will I ever find love? Am I gonna treat everyone I love like this? Am I just meant to be by myself? All of that. And there was a lady called Christina Lopez, and she said, what does your mind say to you when things go wrong? And I sat there and I was like, nothing. I don't really think I think anything. And then it hit me that I used to always say to Sharaf, because I'd like confined him a lot, when things would go wrong, I would be in my headspace and I would always just go, no one gives a shit. No one gives a fucking shit about me. And that's what I would always say. And then I remember, like, even when I'm doing things by myself, when I'm frustrated, I'm like, no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. And I remember even like when I was younger, like just, even if the music was up too loud in the house and I'd ask them to turn it down, they'd turn it down by like a smidge where you can't even hear the difference. And I'd just be like, no one gives a shit about me. Why? No one gives a shit. So that was my thing, that I was like, oh, okay, so like I feel neglected or something like that. So my shadow makes me feel unworthy of things. And I think a lot of my stuff was definitely childhood related, because I feel like as I've got older, I've got better with dealing with things. But it's fine if you haven't and we're still dealing with things, it's absolutely fine. So I looked at my brother, and we're 4 years apart, so quite like a big difference, but not like generations apart. So we're very, very different. We deal with things very, very differently. So just like for a bit of context, my parents broke up and he was about 18, so he went to uni and I stayed at home. So in my head, he got his whole childhood with his nuclear family. From what I remember, I didn't. So I feel like we have a lot of differences in dealing with things in that. So like I was still a child when I felt neglected and everyone was just leaving my life. And like even my brother went to uni. I remember sitting down with a counsellor and she was like, everyone left you. And I was like, everyone did. So yeah, so that I think that's definitely where a big key part in my no one gives a shit. And obviously it was a whole emotional turmoil for everyone. My parents were going through it a lot, my whole family, like both sides of the family were going through it a lot. So where I felt like I needed a lot of support, I wasn't getting it because no one was emotionally charged enough to give me that support. No one knew what the next step was for them, and I felt neglected from that. And obviously I was a child and I failed to realise that they were upset too, and I took a lot of my aggression out. I remember feeling very much, don't have kids if you can't make them the centre of your universe. And I think up until probably this year, I've always said that like every kid wants their parents to be together. Like I know that they won't be good together now, but like that's what was natural for me. Like even though they wasn't good together during my childhood, like I don't know, there's like a weird kind of thing going on there. But sorry about all the vans and stuff. There's like 4 houses moving in down the road, so there's lots of vans and reverse beeps and whatnot. So I am obviously the second child, I am the youngest, but my brother went into football very, very young, and that's kind of like a whole weekend takes up your time. Like my parents always tried to get me into clubs, but I never made friends and I was really sad, and so I was like, can I not do it? And they were like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to force you. My brother loved football, so Saturday we had football training, so we dropped him off football training. So anything we had to do in the day had to like work around that time. We couldn't really take a massive day out unless football training wasn't happening. Sundays was always a football match. Obviously this wasn't all year long, but from my memory it seemed like it. So we had to get up really, really early on a Sunday. Everyone was really stressed, trying to get out the door really quickly, and then I had to be dropped off to my nan's. My parents had to take my brother football matches. So very much Jasmine's being shipped off. Jasmine's not as important. I know there's a lot of shadow work for me to do in terms of being like not good enough. And oh my gosh, am I gonna put this on the internet? Fuck, who cares? Who gives a shit? Not me. Little bit. and I don't talk in like a big group, I get sidelined a lot. And I know they don't mean that purposefully. I think just the way society has made itself out to be is, you know, who can shout the loudest, and I can't shout the loudest. But that's why YouTube has been amazing for me, and anyone who supports my YouTube channel I literally love wholeheartedly, because you're listening to me, you're giving me your voice. And this has definitely, without knowing it, my whole YouTube journey so far has definitely addressed a lot of shadows, or a lot of like trauma in my shadow life, my shadow self, because suddenly people give a shit. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it? And then I realised that there was something about me through learning about shadow work that I didn't realise before. So I'm a hypochondriac. I think, safe to say, if you watch my channel you might already know that the whole kind of holistic health thing is pretty much based around being a hypochondriac, even just focusing on health itself. You just don't want to get sick, and you find ways not to get sick, and that was me. So I kind of typified myself as someone who gets migraines, someone who gets depressed, someone who gets anxious, and has IBS. Like that, I seriously consider those things to be part of my personality, and day to day act like they are. I realised that, okay, you probably have gotten to the gist by now that when it's person to person, I'm not good at talking about my feelings. I can do it over text, which is why my BFF lives in the States. So I can text her and be like, I'm not feeling too good. And she's like, talk to me, girl. And I'm like, okay, here's what's going on. That's why that dynamic works really, really well for me. But so I obviously caught on to this when I was very, very young. If I'm ill, I get attention. Like I said, I've always, like, I had issues being young, always being shipped off and not being as fun and whatever else. So I did crave attention, and when I started getting migraines I was about 9 years old, hit puberty, you know, all that fun stuff. I'd get attention from it, obviously, because everyone's like, what do we do with Jazz? And even just to admit that, like, I like attention, for me is embarrassing, because I've never really got it or sought it out. I've always been the person that's like, no, I don't need attention, but actually, like, I'm sitting in the sidelines and I'm like, I fucking want the attention. Or just like positive feedback about myself. And that's why I think even at work now I'm so like, is that good enough? Is that good enough? Is that good enough? Like, I'm a PA to 3 people. I'll bet you I annoy the crap out of them by saying, is there anything I haven't done? Do you anything that you need me to do? Am I doing a rubbish job? Am I okay? Like, that's something I need to, and again that links back to like, my presence is not making people uncomfortable, and I need to work on just owning myself. So I typified myself, and when I kind of got my migraines under control when I was younger, then my mental stuff started. I'm not saying I was looking for a reason to be unwell and that's how I got unwell. Obviously there were things that contributed to my anxiety and depression. But that became a thing. That was how I communicated with my parents, was I'm feeling anxious, and they'd be like, how are you doing, and things like that. And that was pretty much the only relationship I had with them for quite a long time, especially my wider family, was Jazz is anxious, and I could feel them act in a certain way towards me, looking out for me. And I know that whenever I would kind of say to Mum, I'm not coping, I feel really depressed again, that's when my brother would like chime in again and everyone would like me. Okay, so little trigger warning, I'm going to be talking about food and eating disorders, so like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I didn't realise I think I had an eating disorder even before, like my parents broke up, so like pre the big thing, you know. But I've spoken to people at work, and it's just like, I work in a hospital, by the way, if you don't know me, so I spoke to clinicians at work, and I think my eating disorder was more that I didn't really care to eat. Like, I would forget, and like I just wouldn't care, or like wouldn't find any enjoyment in it. Like, now I don't like cooking, like I don't like a lot of food, but then I also kind of do like food at the same time. It's not that I don't want to eat, and then that kind of, as I grew up, started to be, again, like another personality trait that like we need to, I remember catching wind of my cousin. She used to live opposite me, so she'd come over and my mum and dad would give me my dinner, and then I'd say I'm done, and she was like, Jazz, is that what you're eating? And I was like, yeah. And I remember that being the first time knowing that I got attention from not eating. It's, oh god, our minds are fucked up, right? And I remember being sat down when I was young and very like casually being like, you should just eat a bit more, okay? Like, we'll go out and we'll get you some food. Like food that I like, so I can pick up my own food and stuff. And I remember like I liked that attention, I did. And then I think even at school, like my best friend was very aware. She was like, do you think you're anorexic? And I was like, no, but I liked her thinking about me and my eating habits. And then, like even now recently, like I said, I'm a 23-year-old woman. Literally last week or like the week before, my mum and her partner sat me down and was like, they didn't sit me down, I was already sitting with them, and he was like, I think I had a conversation about it, I don't even know why. It's weird, why am I getting emotional when I know that I'm just doing it for attention? Like, I don't get it. But they sat me down and was like, okay, like your mum's gonna take you shopping, we're gonna go to Marks and Spencer's, which is like a fancy place to get food, and you can pick out what you want because you're not eating properly. Now I remember I was sitting there, obviously I remember it wasn't that long ago. I don't actually know why I'm crying. This is shadow work, see? Maybe it is harder than I thought. I was sitting there and I was like, I feel a little bit bad because I didn't want them to notice. But I kind of like the attention. Like I liked the fact that they gave a crap. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean that to be really like a dramatic cut. My camera ran out of battery. And now I'm over it, so cool. So yeah, so I kind of had to realise why I was acting the way I was acting. So like I said, I'm a 23-year-old woman. I keep repeating that because in my head it's like I should be able to take care of myself. I'm past that. Like in my head I don't seek attention anymore. I just seek what my future is. I am better at communicating. I have better relationships and I'm able to kind of like juggle my emotions and different things and whatnot. I'm happy with my relationships with people, they're okay. But obviously there's still habits in my shadow and there's pathways in my brain that are still there to act how I would always act. They're still holding me back. For instance, even in terms of fitness goals, okay, so we'll go back to the eating. In terms of fitness goals, like I can't put on that much muscle if I don't eat, and I know that. So like just that kind of habit of like having an eating disorder, like I can't, that holds me back from where I want to be. So like I want to put on muscle, I want to put on mass, but like an old habit of mine is not letting me do that. So I guess that's kind of like that kind of shadow work and just me, like I never really thought that like my parents taking my brother to football and me being shipped off constantly to like my nan had that big of an effect on me until I started learning about shadow work. So this was unintentional shadow work I was doing. I'm not going to share obviously the like everything I've been doing because it's just not relevant. But we all have those things that's like so it's just literally just acknowledging that like, oh, I feel neglected because this. And although I didn't feel neglected at the time, I think constantly growing up like that, like in the back of my head it was like, okay, well I'm not a priority. And then having to deal with that. Is that I didn't realise there was a fucking tree outside my window. What the fuck? And then I think there are things that like I would love to say to people. And I think that's the kind of questions I always prompt to myself when I imagine myself being on Piers Morgan Life Stories is like, well, how was your relationship with this person? And how did this person react when you used to do this? And how do you think things would be different if this hadn't happened? And almost just sharing stories from my point of view that I know I will probably never be able to share with the people that were involved in it. But I think that's a common thing. Like it goes for like probably everyone in those scenarios that like we will never talk about these things. And also shadow work is really important is that some people, like because I very much was someone before that, like, we need to heal together. If we went through something together, we had a bit of tension together, we need to sort that out together. But actually, I need to kind of accept, and I have accepted now, that certain people aren't on the same spiritual journey as me, and people don't want to do shadow work, and people are fine just moving on, doing their thing, and that's absolutely great. I needed to sit down and accept that their validation, their forgiveness, them explaining themselves for the situation isn't actually what I need. Just because they don't see me the way they see my brother doesn't mean that they hate me, doesn't mean I'm not worthy. Even if people did think I wasn't worthy, I know that I am. And that's a big thing of the shadow work I've personally been doing, is thinking, well, why? And I think what Christina said about what do you say when things go wrong, that for me was the changing point in my shadow work, and like proper diving into like old traumas and being like, no one gives a shit. Oh. And then things just pop up. And I think the more, it might be very hard at first for things to pop up, but I think the more you think about it. So maybe, for example, if when you think back to an argument, you're like, oh, I should have said that you're a piece of shit and this is all your fault. Then think, okay, well, why did I want to say that to them? Why do I think they're a piece of shit? And why do I think it's all their fault? Is it because everyone's always let me down? And that's what's happened. Everyone always lets me down. Because for me, I know that, like, my family love me so much. Like, I know that they do. I see it in their actions. I see it in their emotional responses to me not being well. I see that they care. Oh, I just unlocked something else. So, like, me talking about being a hypochondriac and me saying they care when I'm not well. I see that they care when I'm not well. So that's obviously why I tended to be more unwell. I know that they care. They just don't display it in the way I want them to.
Hi! So to sum up this little story that I told, which I think I included way too many personal details about me and other people in, so I'm going to retell it, shortened, so you don't have to watch this horrible little clip bit here for too long, but basically there was a scenario where I was in a family event and my YouTube video was going live, and for a long time I battled, and think I still do battle my family and like their support for my YouTube channel and stuff. But I was at this family event, I was at the table, and I was like, I've got to leave the table, my video's going live, I've got to promote it. And they basically was like, no, stay, we'll all promote it together, we'll all watch it. And we had this little streaming part of my video, and that was the first kind of time where I felt support from my YouTube channel from my family. And I was saying that, like, had I not done the shadow work and actually thought, well, I don't need to hide this anymore, this is me, I don't care whether you hate me or not, like, I'm worthy regardless. If I hadn't done that shadow work, I probably wouldn't have said I'm going to promote my video now. I would have either just let the video go without no promotion, or I would have just said I'm going to the toilet and done it all in the toilet by myself and not said anything. But because I did the shadow work and I thought, well, worst case scenario, no one does give a shit, I'm on my own, I'm going to live the life I want. So starting to live the life I want, doing YouTube unapologetically, I realised, well, actually, people do give a shit and people do want to help. It was just me thinking they don't that was holding me back. So I acted like they already didn't care and did what I wanted anyways. Turned out they did care. So yeah, that was just a cool, like, effect of shadow work and an outcome of shadow work that I thought was worth sharing, because I never thought I'd be in that position. I was very shocked, still I'm shocked thinking back to it. But I know 200% that scenario would not have happened. That support would not have come if I hadn't done that shadow work. And I was projecting this kind of person that was unapologetic. Because I think me not working on my shadow, I was very closed off to the support. Maybe they wanted to give me support all this time, but I was just so hurt by that and I didn't let them in to support me, maybe. But yeah.
The next thing was chakras. really helped me. So I was being guided to open up my chakras. Within chakras, you want to have them open and balanced, because some of them can be overactive. So I've tried before doing like the crystal thing where you put crystals on you. I've tried doing the chakra meditations and the chanting, but for me what really helped is I did Cassandra's Yin Yoga chakra series and focused on like affirmations within that, and obviously the poses really help, but I also slept with chakra music on every single night. I think this was the hardest part of shadow work, is it's exhausted me. It wasn't hard emotionally because I really wanted to feel the emotions, like I was feeling quite numb, I wanted to feel the emotions, but it was exhausting, especially because like overnight the kind of binaural beats were playing as well, and I was obviously, my chakras were doing the work, and that was my kind of form of shadow work too, and that helped so much. But honestly, I didn't realize how powerful, like, I'm someone who literally believes in everything, but like until I started on this whole journey, I didn't realize how like your chakras do a lot for you. They do a lot, and how much things can change. And I'm all about, I think that's mainly why I created my channel, all about things which make a big difference with minimal effort. So to recap, the main things that have helped me is, what do you say to yourself when things go bad, trying to connect with your spirit guides, or just chakra balancing and opening. I now sleep with a full like chakra beat on in the background, or if my spirit guides tell me to focus on a certain chakra, then I'll just do that singular one. I've written down this: emotions are part of being human. Some of these emotions we don't understand, and that's fine. The negative emotions are there for a reason. So what is it there to teach you? Quite liked that little thought-provoking thing. So I guess other ways that you can start working on your shadow is think of what triggers it. So someone gave the example of if you're out in public with your partner and they are talking to a beautiful human being and you get jealous. This is very much me. Think, instead of acting, think, why am I getting jealous? Like, why am I actually getting jealous? Just that awareness of thinking, I'm jealous, but I don't know why. That will do a lot of healing in itself. But I think jealousy is a really good example, actually. I should have said that probably earlier on in the video, because I think a lot of people go through that. And I guess like another form of shadow work, I touched on this right at the beginning, is I talk to little Jazz a lot. I'll give her a hug. So I was watching Rocket Man yesterday, and I saw this clip.
When are you going to hug me?
And I was like, that is shadow work, and it's so interesting that that's included in a Hollywood movie. And yeah, like I feel like that is possibly like a very easy way to do shadow work, is to just talk to yourself as a kid, like literally imagine you're walking up to your younger self and tell them everything they need to hear. Tell them you are beautiful. It doesn't matter what this girl in the magazine is, you are beautiful. Or like, it doesn't matter if you haven't got everything figured out yet. It doesn't matter. I think I might have to on the video soon. But I will link below all of the channels and videos that I really liked in watching from shadow work, and I hope you try it. I really do. But you can always DM me if you want to talk about things. You can comment if you want to comment. Yeah, I really do hope that it helps you and gets you to where you want to be. And I also feel like since doing my shadow work, I feel a lot like my manifestations, there is nothing in my way. Like, I feel completely free. And my manifestations are literally just waiting for me to get there in the physical world. Like, it's done, it's already there, it's sorted, I just need to drive there. That's literally what it feels like right now, where I feel like I'm not being anchored, I'm not being held back, there's no elastic band around me pulling me back. I'm free to do whatever, cause I'm famous, golly gallagher, cause I'm so shamed.